Hey everyone, and thanks for joining us on Salesforce Mojo. Today we're going to be going over styling your storefront with B2B Commerce. I'm excited about this one because we're finally going to have a nice branded storefront at the very end of this. So far we've been using the Alpine group and some of the out-of-the-box capabilities, but today we're going to completely style this with tiny homes. So if you're looking to really bring your storefront to life with your brand, your logos, your colors, stay tuned and let's get right into it. So when it comes to styling your storefront, there's a couple different areas that we need to think about. The first one is the overall theme and palette. And I'll show you this in a couple different places within the storefront. But you want to start at the very top level, the global settings, and that's your theme and or multiple palettes. The second one here is your page content. So you want to go through page by page and understand what content should go in those pages. Homepage, you'll probably spend more time doing this content than you will some of the subsequent pages, and any other custom pages that you might have in your storefront. And third is the component style. Now this is both component style, because you can have individual styles inside of a component, but also the component content and what actually goes in there. So once you've nailed all three of these sections here, you'll have an easier time styling your storefront and understanding exactly what components make up the overall look and feel of your store. So here we are on our new LWR B2B template that we set up in the last video. And if you missed kind of the initial setup of this and want to understand how we got to this point, you can go ahead and go back to last week's video. But from what we're going to do today, we're going to start with this out-of-the-box template here, and we're going to have a fully styled storefront by the end of this. Now, what we have right here in front of us is good bones, but it has nothing to do with tiny homes, and it has none of the colors that we'd expect on here. So let's actually jump back into Salesforce, and we're going to navigate over to Tiny Homes, our storefront in the B2B LWR one, and we'll jump into Experience Builder, because Experience Builder is where we're actually going to do all of this customization for our storefront. Now remember from the last conversations, the data lives inside of Salesforce as you'd expect, everything in here, in products and everything. But the actual visualization of this lives inside of Experience Builder. And you'll see that once we're inside of Experience Builder, we're greeted with a very similar looking page, but now we have all these components on the page here. And if this is your first time seeing Experience Builder, I'll just do a quick run through. The top section here is the navigation bar, and it allows you kind of switch between the actual builder we're in, administration, and a couple other sections. It allows you to publish up here, go through localizations as we talked about last time, and very importantly, be able to see the different view modes, which will be important for us as we go through this branding exercise. On the left-hand side, we have these menus over here, you could call them, and this is where you can see your components, your theme, page structure, and settings very easily here. And then in the actual center of the page is the page that you can actually click into each one of these sections and make customizations and changes from there. Now where we want to start is the overall branding and theming. Our goal here is to make this look and feel like a Tiny Homes site by the end of this. And Tiny Homes, just for a reminder, is a company that actually sells furnishings, materials, and actual tiny homes. So that's kind of the objective there and what we're looking for. So the first area that we're going to go into is the theme. Now you can see right out of the gate we have a couple of different sections here. The first area we're going to go into is colors. Colors are pretty important for the overall site to look and feel like it's supposed to. So I'm going to go ahead and grab in my hex code for tiny homes, and we'll drop that in here. And that's actually one of the nice little features that if you didn't know, you could drop a hex code in and it will turn it into RGB here for you. So we have a green color for our tiny homes here. That's step number one here. I will go over in advanced, and we might come back here in a little bit, but you can go kind of section by section and really change and refine these. Right now this is all linked to the overall palette here, but we can go through and change this as needed. Now from here, I'll just go through and talk a little bit about each one of these sections down below. Each one of these get into a lot of the nuances of how the overall site theming structure is built. So for instance, images are a pretty important one here. We can drop in both our site logo and our favicon in here so that it actually feels and looks like tiny homes. So that's actually one of the first things we'll do. We'll go in and we're going to click on upload. And the first thing we're going to be greeted with is we don't have a digital experience app connected to our Experience Cloud site yet because we haven't done that setup. So if you get this right here, go ahead and click digital app right here, and it will navigate you over into digital experiences. You'll see I have workspaces for both my B2C and my standard Aura-based tiny homes. But we'll go ahead and click create a new workspace, and we will type in tiny homes LWR B2B so it matches with the storefront name. We'll map it to our storefront right here, or our channel is what they call it in this section. We will not have any other collaborators, and then we will put English as our selected language. And in this storefront, I believe we did Spanish and French as well, but we'll leave English as the default language. And once we've done that, we will click done. And now we'll have a workspace that we can actually upload content into. So now we have that. We will pop back over here, and we can go to our Experience Builder to get back into Experience Builder. Now, once we've done this, we'll reload, and we can go back to our theme and try this again, and it should prompt us with a screen that looks like this. Because we don't have any content in here yet, the first thing we'll need to do is go ahead and create content. So let's go ahead and upload content from our directory here, and I have a Tiny Homes folder where all this lives. And I'll go ahead and click this Tiny Homes logo horizontal right here and upload that. And now this is going to be uploaded into CMS, and I can use this anywhere on the site after I've uploaded this once here. But we'll go ahead and click save here, and it should auto attach it to our site now. So now we can see we have the logo up here. This is a little bit too big for my taste though, so if you click into the site logo, you can go through and actually customize the exact dimensions of this. So I'm going to try to get it to match a little bit more with the height of the navigation here, so it doesn't make the overall navigation too big for me. Okay, so now that looks a little bit better. And as you're going through this and you do any images, it's a good practice to put in alt text so that your site is more accessible and it's indexed better by all the search engines if you have this public. So I'd put something in here like Tiny Homes logo and the actual alt text so that it's there. Now the next thing we're going to do, and we're going to kind of go from top to bottom here because I find that's the easiest. So we'll go ahead and close out of this, and you can see that we've already got our color inherited from the overall theme for these two icons over here. They were blue originally. But you can see that, for instance, the search bar right here is keeping and maintaining that original color. So if we go into the search bar, we can go into design, and you can see that it has a couple of the actual colors right here that we're going to need to override. So we'll go ahead and drop in that color again here for both the background and the border so they match. And then for hover, I usually drop in my original color and then lighten it up just a tad bit here so you can see the difference when you're hovering over it. And let's just see what that looks like real quick. So that's kind of what you're dealing with right there. And then for our brand over here, I do want a little bit of border radius on here, which means that it's going to be a little bit curved on the edges right here. So that's looking a little bit better now. We do have this top promotion section, which is new in LWR. And this is really up to you if you plan on using it or not. You can go into the overall commerce header and you can hide this and say, I don't want this anymore. But for our case, I think we're going to keep it. I think what we're actually going to do is brand this a bit so it looks a little bit better for us here. Now, it's really important where you click on here because there's a couple of different components right in the very top here. There's the commerce header, which is this component we've been dealing with so far. And then if you go right over here on the side, there is a new section here, which isn't necessarily a component by itself, but it is an actual section. And what you can do is you can change the color palette of this section here. So we're going to go ahead and do this for this promotion section, and we'll call this promotion header for us. And once we do that, we will have a new palette to deal with. And what this gives us the advantage of doing is changing the background color. So let's say that I wanted to change the background color to my green up here so it really stands out. And then I want to change the text to white for myself. And if I go over into spacing, I should be able to give myself a little bit of spacing in this component right here so that it actually has a little bit of space to breathe. And then if I go into the actual rich content area, because that's really all it is I can go over and center it right here now. And now that I've done that, I think it's going to start looking a little bit better. And it's got a little bit of an extra space in here, which you can fix by just coming in and out like that. And then once you preview it, Yeah, now that's kind of looking like it's a distinct feature. You know, you're getting shipping off for anything over $200 for orders. So now it's, instead of it being a little bit of a design baggage there, it's now looking like it's part of the site. So now that we have that, I think the next natural area for us to really improve is our categories. Because right now our navigation's looking a little bit bland here. We have home and products, but we know we have more products than that. So let's go back over into Salesforce and we'll go to categories. And the first thing we'll do is we'll actually rename products here, and we're going to call this building materials. And this is actually going to be our top category. It's going to have the most in it, most likely. But we'll go ahead and add a couple more. We need finishing materials, and we're going to also need homes. And then we're going to have a couple of subcategories underneath both of these, or all three of these, I should say. Let's go back to our categories here, and we'll drop this down, and you're going to click Add Subcategory, and we'll do lumber. And then I'm going to speed through the next couple of categories here, and then come back here in a moment. Okay, so now we have our categories in here. So we have our building materials with lumber and hardware underneath it, which we can expand more as we need to. We have finishing materials, which is the doors and windows and sinks right now. And then we have our actual homes, full homes that are for sale as well. So we will need to add some products in here for each one of these for it to show up properly, which we'll do kind of an off segment here. But before we do the final wrap up, we'll be able to see everything live in there. Now that we have that, I think we should go in and actually add media to categories. Now it's pretty natural to add media to products because we want people to be able to purchase the products, but I think it's just as important to add media to categories if you're able to, because this really gives you a nice way to show those categories on the homepage if you want to. So let's click into each one of the top level categories here, and we'll start with building materials. And the UI is really the same. We're going to start with media right here. We will add an image, and we're going to add new content, and we'll click upload files here, and then we'll do our lumber category right here, which is our building materials. And we will go ahead and rename this so it's a little bit clearer here, building category, and save. And we now have a banner image. And why don't we put a title image on here as well, and go ahead and click add and save. And then we'll go back over into finishing materials, media, and we'll add some content here as well. And we have one for finishing category here, which is a door that looks pretty nice. And we will go ahead and save and attach that, and we'll do the same thing on the title image as well. Okay, and then we have that. We'll go into homes, do the same thing here. Add new content, upload. All right, and now that we have that attached, we'll go ahead and click save there, do the same thing, attach it. And now we have all of our top level categories with images. So now that we have that set up, let's go back over into Experience Builder, and what we can do is, we haven't re-indexed our store yet, but inside of Experience Builder, we should be able to see those categories come across correctly, and we do see that. We see both them up the top here, but we also see categories starting to show up down below. So I think that's going to look pretty good for us right now. All right, so now that we have the categories figured out here, our header is starting to come together pretty nicely. I'm liking the look and feel of that. Now if we scroll down, we have our shop by categories, which is on here by default. And I think we'll actually leave this for now because I think it's going to look pretty nice for the actual storefront we're trying for. And then if we scroll down a little bit more, we have our footer. So let's go ahead and do our footer since we're here. We're going to need to change this text blocks right here, which is just a text block, nothing special about it. So we'll go ahead and upload this to Tiny Homes, tinyhomes.com. And we'll change the logo right here. And we don't have a logo that will really fit well on a black background yet. But if we do a new content, we should have one in our arsenal right here, which is the horizontal white. And if we save that and upload it, we should be able to see a pretty good looking logo. We'll go ahead and take this down a bit because it's a footer. We don't want it to distract too much. And then we have a footer that looks pretty good. although we probably at some point should update these link lists so they actually go to something new, because they both right now go to the same thing. But now that we have all of the out-of-the-box stuff configured here, it's looking a little bit better, but what do we actually do from here? Well, this is where really you need to put your branding hat on, and you might work with a branding agency or an internal designer, or you might just go around and search for a couple of things. But I'm going to add a couple of sections in here, maybe to inspire some ideas that could be helpful, because in a lot of cases, your home page on your storefront is not only there to show off products, because it absolutely is, but it's also there to show off your company as well, and tell a little bit about who you are. So in our site, we're actually going to start by setting up a who we are. So we'll start that process by clicking a new section, and we'll come over into our components, and we'll drop in first a rich text area. Actually, before we do that, we want 2 columns over here. Let's take that rich we just dropped on here and drag it down to the bottom section, and we will do another rich editor and a button up here at the top. And let's actually just go to the section. Oops, let's go back. We don't want that section right now. We want to come into this section right here, and let's just do this 7.5. So we have a little more weighted on the left-hand side. And then from here, we're going to go in and we're going to edit content. And we want to do a kind of a new header section here. So I'm just going to use lorem ipsum for most of this content, but you obviously would use, your actual content. And we could do who we are. Let's do this capitalized. And we're going to make this pretty big down here. Let's call this maybe 36. And we will do this a little bit smaller. Let's call this like 9. And we're going to brand this with the green. Let's actually make that bold. And here we are. So now we have a header for a new section. And then I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to drag in most of this content just so that you don't have to see me type a bunch of lorem ipsum. But you can come in here and edit this content. And we're going to drag in lorem ipsum. And then on the button down below, we're going to left align that. And let's call this learn more. And this learn more might take us to an external URL for another marketing site or our main site. Could take us to a page that we've created inside of Experience Builder, or it could do, or those are really the two options there. So you'd pick those two and really make that work. And then on the right hand side, we're going to drag in an image here. Now you could build a component that does this, but I'm going to give you an example of how to do this with just an image. I think overall, a component might do a little bit better job to actually render everything dynamically, but for the sake of showing you guys a couple of examples, we'll just drag up a new image here, which we will pull from our marketing image inside of our folder, and we'll save that. And this will give us a nice little image to put on the left-hand side, and we're going to decrease it just a little bit over here, and yep, scale to fit. And now we can see that we have a little bit of a who we are section right here. So we're going to add 2 more sections here. The first section we're going to add is going to be right below this. It's going to be all about trying before you buy. You might be thinking, okay, that's a little bit weird for a tiny homes type of business, but we are selling homes on here. So we're going to have a section here that will drive people to view the homes, and they can try it through kind of like a rent process that we might set up in this. So what we'll do with this is we're actually going to click this section first, and you'll notice that the section has a section style. And we're actually going to start with a background image right here. And we're going to click Add Content, and we're going to drag in one of our pieces of content called Background 2. And once we have this added, you'll see that this goes across the back, which doesn't look great right now. But let's go ahead and add in 2 rich content areas into this section right here. Let's see if those got in there. They did. And then we'll do one more button in here. And let's go ahead and override this content. And we're going to do try before you buy. You know, we probably can accomplish this inside of a single one here. And so we're actually going to go ahead and we're going to remove the second one here. And you can see a lot of what I'm doing here is a little bit of trial and error, right? What looks good, what doesn't look good, and you know, really just making it fit. So I think that looks pretty good with some lower Ipsum here. We do want this to be white. You might be wondering, why does he want this to look white? It looks horrible right now. But you'll see in a second. We'll go into button text. We're going to do visit and discover as the hook for us to get them to click. And then what we can also do by going to the section, right? And you don't want to click on these two that I just added on there, but are kind of the border around it. You can go to the section style, and I'm actually going to bring over my secondary color that I've been using or will be using across the site. And I can drop that in here. You can see it's kind of a dark blue. So I can put that in here, and then I can decide to kind of scale it back a bit as far as opacancy. And I think I want to see something like maybe that. That looks pretty good. And then you can see that maybe I want to add just one more section here at the bottom. And sometimes I use these rich content editors as a way to add some buffer at the very bottom. But I want to do a bunch of overriding here, so I can go ahead and click that. And let's see, maybe we want to do one more at the top for us. And that's looking pretty good. So now we have a nice little full width background image right here with an overlay color and a couple of pieces of content and a button in there, all with just a couple of clicks. Now we're going to do one more thing here. We're going to start by dragging in some of our commerce components. So, you know, part of the point of the commerce site and the homepage is really to drive them to do something here. So we've decided to do a little bit about who ourselves, shop by category, but we also want a new section down here. And this section is again going to be a 2-column, I believe. And we'll start with a order list on the left-hand side right here. And we will drag in a top seller on the right-hand side. And you can see that it starts by giving us this, I'll drag it over here so you can see it a little bit better. It starts by giving us this blank field right here. And what this is actually wanting you to do is put in the ID of the category to display for top sellers. And this uses some of their Einstein recommendation capability to pull the top sellers. So we'll go back over into building materials because this is the one that we'll want to do top sellers for. We'll drop that in, and as recommendations show up, you can see that top sellers immediately start showing up. So let's say that we want only 4 visible, and that'll make it look a little bit better there, I think. So now over to our order list on the left-hand side, you can see that we need to enter a valid account ID. And if you scroll over to the right-hand side, you can see that the account ID record that's used for configuration. So this is really just for our sakes. So we'll go back over into Salesforce, grab an account ID here, and we'll drop that right in here. And this will give us the ability, let's see, got an error there, but it looks like it did pull up correctly. This will give us the ability to actually see what this will look like. And I think that looks pretty good. We have our order number here, we have the status, we have the date, we have the total, and we do have the ability to start a reorder or view details. But as you go down, you can see all the things that we could change in this, and some of the actions we could change as well. If we we didn't want the reorder button on here, we could take that off as well. But now let's go ahead and go to preview, and our homepage is coming along quite well. We have some meat down here on the bottom section, and we have some marketing stuff right above it. We might want to add some spacing right here for a new section, which we'll do here in a moment, I think. And then we do want to override this section because it has nothing to do with our storefront. So let's go ahead and tap into our hero banner here. Looks like we're going to continue to get this resizer error, but we will ignore it for now. Go up to hero banner and go to background, and we'll select one from CMS, and we'll use that same background image that we were using before. And I'll grab my color again for secondary, and we'll go to the overlay, and kind of same principle here. We can decide to enter an overlay. We probably want this one to be a bit lighter, but enough where we can actually see the white on here. So let's do something like this. And then we'll go ahead and change the content here, and let's go with the title that says a fresh new look at tiny homes and expertly crafted homes I'm thinking that's looking pretty good for us now. Okay, so now that we have all of that done, let's go over into preview just to see what this looks and feels like. So now we have a promotion at the top here for us. We have a nice little banner that is getting us started. Then we have some categories, which we might want to fill out with more categories here in a little bit because it's looking a little bit blank on the right and left hand side, which we could decide to either fill more in or do like a 7-3 or some combination of that for the different sections. And then we have a little bit about ourselves right here. And then we have try before you buy. And then we have some nice little components up here that really drive some functionality. Overall, looking really nice. However, there is one little piece that is starting to bug me a bit, and that is that these hovers right here look nice when they hover because it's white, but really the buttons don't look great. So one of the things I want to do is I want to override the color of these buttons when they're just not hovered. Now, I believe there is a theme over here that should allow you to do this, but if you go into buttons, you can see that there is no color in this section right here. It's all about spacing, but if you go into the actual colors in advanced, underneath button there isn't a button color as in like the text color. And none of these link or text work to override this either. So I'll use this as an example of how you can go into your advanced down here, go to head markup, and we can add a new section called style right here. And we'll add a new class selector, and we don't know what the class is right now, so we're just going to do class, and then we'll do color, white, important, that, and we'll click save for a quick second. But the way we'll actually do this is we'll go into preview once this thing reloads, and it's pretty easy to find this. We can go into inspect right here, and we'll have to do a little bit of tinkering around with this because we want to make sure it doesn't affect any of the other buttons that we don't want to be white. But let's go ahead and take this class right here, and we'll go back to our builder, back into advanced, and we'll change this to .slds brand, button brand, and we'll click save. And once we've done that, we should see that it is defaulted to be white, which is good. And it did not override the buttons down here, which is what I really wanted to make sure didn't happen. So we can see that that's looking pretty good now. So now that we have that mostly configured, let's go ahead and publish this and also re-index, and then we'll log in as our user and see what it feels like as that user and start to go to some of the other pages that we'll have to modify as well. All right, we're now logged in as Howard again, and we can see that the site is really coming together. We have a nice navigation at the top. However, we might want to change homes to something else so that there's not homes and homes. But overall, banner looks really good. Category looks good. We got a left and right down here. Got a try before you buy, which we'd eventually need to build something out that links to this. And we have some really nice functionality down here that can drive some benefit for our end users. We are noticing that the logo isn't showing up. If this ever happens for you, all you need to do is go into Experience Builder. And what I've found is if you go in here and click clear and then reattach it as the same image, save, and then publish again, this will actually fix that issue where it's not showing up. So let's see if that does it for us here real quick. Okay, let's go back over to our site, refresh, and we should see that logo appearing for us now, and it is there. Perfect. All right, so now let's go ahead and click on some of the other sites. So let's go to building materials. We can see that we have a very big building materials image right here, which we might want to fix when we go to this page. And we might want to add some categories and filters on the left-hand side down here. And let's go over into, let's actually add one of these items to our cart real quick. Add to cart. And we can see in our cart, this is actually looking pretty good. It's branded, it has all of our colors on it. So that's not too bad. If we go into checkout, however, logo is really big up here, so we might want to change that and see what we can do with it. And then let's go over into my accounts. And you can see that my accounts is looking pretty good as well, although the logo is here and it looks like the navigation didn't fully pull over, meaning kind of the header section and the colors are wrong here as well. But I think we can change those pretty quickly here. So in this next segment, I'll go through and kind of make some of those updates I just mentioned there. But I'm going to kind of do it as a fast play, and you can kind of watch me do it at 2, 3, 4x the speed of how I would normally do it. So you can kind of get an idea of what I'm doing without having to watch me and listen to me talk through the entire section there. So as you just saw, there's a lot of different areas within Experience Builder that we need to go to make configuration changes to really pull together the branding of the site. But you can see a lot of it is point and click. There are a couple of areas that, there are some restrictions and you might need to override with the header or your own components. But overall, we have a really good looking site with just a couple of clicks. Thanks for watching. Let me know if you have any questions in the comment section and like the video if you like the content.